So, hello. This is the fourth of the talks that I've given that I've put onto YouTube. If you've not seen them all, I perhaps better tell you that it came about because my friends at Bitton Park Baptist Church asked if I would do a little mini sermon for them every week. And we thought the best thing to, in these days of when we can't be with one another, was to put it onto YouTube. And so I did that. And then I thought, well, it's not a secret, anything I want to say, so why not make it available to other friends as well? Some who are believers, others who aren't believers, because I think there's something relevant to say to everyone at the moment. And I hope that if you've been listening to these, I hope you've been enjoying them, and thank you for your feedback. Now, of course, it's not Sunday, and normally I publish these on a Sunday. Today's Friday. So why am I speaking on a Friday? Because it's the Friday that we call Good Friday, the start of Easter weekend. Good Friday is a bit of a funny name for it, really, because it's pretty bleak. It's really black, in fact. Black Friday might have been better, but I think the publicity people got that at Christmas, didn't they? But it's certainly bleak and difficult Friday. And when my friends at Bitton Park said, "Well, can you do a Friday talk?" I thought, really, I thought I'd rather do Sunday, but then they told me they'd got someone else to do Sunday who's a bit better than me, and so I said, okay, I'll do Friday. But the reason why I wanted to do Sunday was Sunday's the good news. Sunday's a happy story. But Friday, Good Friday, is pretty bleak. If you don't know the story, and I expect most of you do, it's the commemoration of the fact that Jesus was crucified. What had happened was he'd been travelling around for 3 years preaching his good news, telling people about God, telling people that they could be forgiven of their sins, and he'd done a lot of amazing things, miracles, people had got healed. It was an incredible time, and he got with him a group of followers who we call the disciples. But the authorities didn't like it, and the authorities had him arrested. And he ended up in a court, a sort of court that we'd call a kangaroo court, i.e., he was always going to be found guilty. And perhaps the weirdest thing was that even people in the crowds who had acclaimed him and were really happy about him being around were now shouting, "Crucify him, crucify him." And this poor man, I feel sorry for the man that's called Pontius Pilate. This poor man had to make a judgment, and in the end he I think felt that if he let Jesus go, his reputation as the governor would be in tatters, and he'd probably get in trouble with his superiors. So he sentenced Jesus to be crucified, and there he was, put on the cross. Some people thought there was going to be angels that would come and would come and sort of rescue him, because if he really was the Son of God, surely he wouldn't have to go through this. But he didn't. He died in agony on the cross. In the Bible, there are 4 versions of this story from the 4 Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. One thing I like about the Bible is that if a committee had written it, we would just have one version. But we get 4 versions, and it's 4 different perspectives. Sometimes they're quite difficult to fit together. I don't think that's really important. The interesting thing is that all 4 of them insist both on the fact that Jesus died on the Friday, and the remarkable story that on the Sunday he came back to life again. They all agree that that was the case, which, if you think about it, is just an incredible thing. But let's go back to the Friday and Jesus on the cross. One thing that strikes me is he was thinking of others. Most of the versions talk about the fact that there were 2 criminals, one each side of him on the cross. But the one in Luke's Gospel says something very special, because the other versions talk about these criminals kind of mocking him, saying, "Oh, come on, you think you're the Son of God, get down off the cross then." And but Luke's version says this, that one of them rebuked the other for being so rude, if you like, so critical, and said, look, we're guilty people, but this man is innocent. And he asked Jesus to forgive him, and Jesus said this thing, today you will be with me in paradise. But the other story that comes from Jesus on the cross is a story in John's Gospel. And there we're told that he saw in the crowd his mother Mary, and he also saw a friend of his, the disciple who's called the disciple whom Jesus loved, which everyone says is John who wrote John's Gospel. And Jesus, although he was going through such trauma and such agony, he shouted out, or he said to Mary, John's now going to be your son. And he said to John, look, treat this woman like your mother. And what struck me by that was that even through a terrible time, he was thinking of others. And that seems very relevant to today, doesn't it? Because we're all going through difficult times one way or another. And yet there are so many stories going around of where people are caring for one another and looking after one another. And I'd encourage all of us to find creative ways of doing that. We can't be with one another at the moment, but we can find a way of showing our love and care for one another, be it through a phone call, be it through just saying, when you go out for your walk, just sort of smiling and saying and nodding to people. I finished a book recently. It was a 750-page book about General de Gaulle, and I decided I was going to look for the author, and I found his email address online, and so I sent him an email and I said, I've really loved your book during these difficult times, and I got a reply from him. So I hopefully encouraged him and he encouraged me. So in these dark and difficult times, let's find times to encourage one another. Now, I don't want to steal the thunder of my friend who's going to be talking on Sunday. But I am going to finish with a bit of hope, because the good people of Bitton Park Baptist sent me an Easter card. I bet they don't all know they sent me an Easter card, but they did. And on the back of it, there's a verse from the Bible, and I'm going to finish with that. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. These are difficult times, but if I can impart anything to you, it's a sense of hope. We will get through these times. There will be good times again. We will be able to shake hands with our friends, or give them a hug, or give them a kiss, or whatever it is. There will be happier times ahead. So stay strong, stay safe, do what you're told, and hopefully I'll see you next week on a Sunday.